melambung dan tidak munasab. Harga melambung dan tidak munasabah. Itulah reaksi kebanyakan pengguna maupun peniaga yang mengeluh akibat terkesan dengan kenaikan harga barang keperluan harian, terutamanya sayur-sayuran, ayam, ikan dan makanan laut. Ikuti tinjauan bersama wartawan Natasha Alijina di Pasar Harian Selayang sekitar ibu kota.
Selain negara masih lagi berdepan dengan jangkitan COVID-19, harga barang kini cukup menggusarkan para pengguna serta ada yang merungut kerana kenaikan harga barang, terutamanya barangan keperluan harian yang naik mendadak dan juga harganya boleh dikatakan tidak masuk akal seperti harga ayam dan sayur-sayuran. Bukan sahaja menimbulkan rasa ketidakpuasan hati dalam kalangan pembeli, malah dalam kalangan peniaga. Difahamkan harga ayam daripada pihak pembekal mencecah hampir RM10 sekilogram berbanding sebelumnya yang hanya RM7 sekilogram, menyebabkan peniaga berdepan dengan kehilangan pelanggan.
Paling teruk sekali harga ayam lah. Memang orang kata harga Yahudi lah sekarang ni orang cakap. Kan dulu kita berniaga, kita ambil harga ayam dalam RM7-8 sekilo, sekarang ni dah sampai ke RM10 lebih sekilo. Memang benda ni memang membebankan rakyat, membebankan pengguna, membebankan peniaga dan juga membebankan pada pembeli.
Pembekal harga sampai pembekal RM8.60 bagi kita orang. Kita jual pun RM9.5, RM9.2 je. RM9.5 tak boleh jual. Kadang-kadang customer lari. RM9.2 pun lepas jugalah. Terpaksalah nak jaga customer kan.
Customer kata-kata komplain memang mahal lah. Sebab acik kat sini dah dekat 30 tahun. Harga ayam ni pertama kali acik tengok macam ni punya mahal tau.
Memang kita banyak tanggung berat lah. Orang pekerja pun nak gaji kan. Kita pun nak makan juga kan. Barang-barang pun sudah naik. Kita pun nak jual pun kesusah.
Bukan sahaja harga ayam, malah kenaikan harga barang lain seperti ikan dan sayur-sayuran yang melampau juga mengakibatkan peniaga berdepan dengan kerugian.
Sayur-sayuran ni memang naik harga 2 kali lipat. Dulu timun kita jual, kita beli RM2, kita jual RM2.5, sekarang beli RM4. Jual RM4.5 pun tak nak beli dah. Kita barang beli hari-hari tak habis. Barang dah layu, kita kena buang banyak.
Banyak rugi lah.
Banyak rugi lah, memang banyak rugi.
Memang saya minta pantau harga ikan keli, harga seperti ayam, daging, ikan laut sekali, sayur, cili. Cili sekarang sampai dah RM21 sekilo cili merah. Kerek sekarang ni pun dah naik RM6.5. Kangkung pun naik dah, harga pun boleh katakan menambah harga sekarang ni.
Mereka menyuruh pihak berkuasa agar sentiasa memantau harga barang dengan lebih ketat demi menjamin hak pengguna dalam pembelian barangan harian. Wartawan Natasha Alijina untuk Bernama TV.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today's titled The Ugly Truth, Price Hike of Vegetables. My name is Wong Yanke and I am the Research Officer for Monitoring Sustainability of Globalization, and I will be serving as your moderator today. You will be hearing a brief presentation from our 4 amazing speakers. They are the first speaker is YB Charles Santiago, the Member of Parliament Klang. Welcome, YB. And the second speaker is YB Nuriza Anwar, the Member of Parliament Pematang Pau. Welcome, YB. And the third speaker is Mr. Chai Yinong, Secretary General from the Persatuan Pekebun Sayur-sayuran Malaysia. And the last speaker would be Madam Fatima Muhammad Idris, the Vice President from the Consumer Association of Penang. So, ladies and gentlemen, although the economic sector has reopened, the standard of living has not recovered and is increasingly burdening the people. In particular, the cost of basic living has shot up recently. For example, like what you can see from the video presentation just now, and the vegetables price have gone up and expected to hit the 200% remark. And this has put tremendous financial pressure on many families. Hence, we organized the forum, come very timely by the lawmakers and the NGO leaders. We are aimed to understand the ugly truth behind the vegetables price hike and also the inflation, and proposing the solution and for the way forward. So a gentle reminder to all the audience, if you have any question regarding this topic, please post it at the comment section and we will forward it to our speakers today during the Q&A session. So without further ado, let us welcome our first speaker, YB Charles Santiago. YB, can you give us a very brief introduction on this issue and how the recent price hike has impacted your constituents?
Thanks, Yanka, for organizing this event. But also let me say hello to YB Nurul Izzah, as well as Mr. Chai and also Puan Fatima from the Consumer Association of Pulau Pinang. Let me just begin with an anecdote, Yanka, and then talk about the specific issues surrounding the increase in prices. This past week, my office was involved in distributing vegetables in Klang, which we do throughout the MCO period. But this time, partly because we were receiving a quite number of phone calls from constituents saying that they were having difficulty in buying vegetables and that it was very expensive. And true enough, as is reported and as we hear, the price of vegetables have gone up anywhere between 150 to 200%, including the price of chicken as well as fish. So this is a problem. Let me just share with you an anecdote of my exchange this past Sunday with a 45-year-old woman in Jalan Kem in Klang. Now, I asked her, how are you doing, and so on and so forth. And then I asked her, what do you think of the increase in prices? She said it is very difficult for her. She's a single mother, and she's got health issues. She's got 5 children, and she said, I said, "Makcik, tak pergi pasar?" And then her answer was, "Saya takut nak pergi pasar." So I said, "Why? Mengapa makcik takut nak pergi ke pasar?" Dia kata, I can't afford to pay the price that the increase in price is just too much. So I said, what are you going to do? I mean, you have to feed your children. So what she said really struck me. She said, we have to limit our consumption, meaning that she will have to feed her children much less than otherwise. So this goes back to a problem that we already faced during COVID-19, and we see the problem of food, availability of food or access to food as becoming a continuous problem from COVID-19 to at this moment in time. So I said, how are you going to, pay for your food and so on and so forth? She said, look, I have no choice. I ada 5 anak dan saya terpaksa gunakan wang yang saya ada, iaitu tidak banyak, terhad. So oleh kerana itu, apa-apa saya dapat beli, saya terpaksa simpan dan juga share with the children. And she said it's going to be very difficult because she got very young children as well. Now, this also raises an important point that UNICEF has told us that Malaysians, especially young children from 1 to 5 years of age, are facing stunted growth, which means that the physical growth of the child is stunted and does not actually achieve what a 5-year-old child would do in terms of physical growth. Now, this problem is only unique to poor developing countries. The question to ask for Malaysia is, are we a poor developing country? We suppose we're upper middle level developing country, but the problems that we are having, especially among the B40 or what is now called B60, are problems that poor people face in countries like in Africa, for example. In fact, stunted growth is a problem in Africa, and today in Malaysia we are having that growth. So let me also share with you that if you ask people why is there a problem with food at this moment in time, it can be anything from labor shortage, number one. Number two, the increase in the cost of herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, and the role of middlemen. As one middleman told me that the price that they send from Cameron Highlands and the price that ends up in Selayang market and the price that you file in retail markets are very, very different and drastically different or significantly quite different. And then, of course, we have a breakdown in the supply chain, a delay in the supply chain. All these have contributed enormously to the problem that we are having right now. That is a very high increase, a steep increase in the prices of chicken, fish, as well as vegetables. Though I'll stop here. Thank you.
Maybe Charles, YB Nurul Izzah, can you tell us more about your observation at your constituency, and also are there any other major factors that you think that lead to this price hike of the essential goods?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam hormat. Terima kasih Saudara Yanka. Saya harap saya dapat menjawab dalam bahasa Malaysia kerana sudah ternyata ramai rakyat yang mengalami kemelut kenaikan harga barang, khususnya barangan-barangan basah yang kita guna pakai untuk memasak dan sebagai makanan ruji dan makanan harian. Encik Chai yang bersama Puan Fatimah jauh lebih pakar dalam hal ini dan tentunya YB Charles yang menjemput saya hadir. Saya sebenarnya merasa sangat kecewa kerana kalau kita lihat ledakan ataupun kenaikan harga barang, ia bukan sesuatu yang mengejut dari persepsi ataupun dari pandangan sebuah kerajaan. Kenapa saya berkata sedemikian? Pada ketika Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution memegang jawatan Menteri KPDNHP tahun 2019, isu kartel yang wujud di Pasar Borong Selayang, masalah-masalah lanjutan bila kita lihat kawalan kartel. Kartel ni macam big description lah untuk menyatakan kawalan beberapa pihak yang berkuasa untuk mengawal selia harga. Maka akibatnya telah diputuskan oleh kerajaan ketika itu untuk menghasilkan laporan. Laporan penuh namanya Laporan Suruhanjaya Persaingan Malaysia kepada Timbalan Menteri untuk melihat kepada kenaikan harga barangan secara sistematik dan sistemik. 5 barang yang dilihat. Contohnya kesimpulan yang mereka dapati pada tahun 2019, harga ikan kembung naik secara sistematik dalam 10 tahun. Harga susu formula bayi berkembang juga secara konsisten. Kebanyakannya antara 15 hingga 20% dari 2014 hingga 2018. Harga sawi, bayangkan ini laporan lama. Bukan laporan yang baru Harga sawi meningkat kira-kira 6% setahun secara purata antara 2008 hingga 2018 di seluruh tahap rangkaian bekalan dan antara lain bilangan import makanan bagi sayur-sayuran, buah-buahan, daging, ikan dan makanan laut telah melihat untuk memperlihatkan tren meningkat dari 2014 hingga 2017. Jadi ini konteks latar belakang harga barangan di Malaysia. Antaranya disebabkan AP, antaranya disebabkan salah guna kuasa mereka pihak yang memegang kuasa kawalan import. Ini disimpulkan dalam laporan. Tapi bila berlakunya pandemik, sudah tentu harga barangan lain sama ada dedak untuk haiwan-haiwan ternakan, untuk ayam, merekodkan kenaikan yang skyrocketing, yang sangat-sangat tinggi. Dan ini mengeruhkan keadaan lah. Tetapi nak kata kita dalam situasi di mana ekosistem itu tidak mencatat peningkatan, tak benar. Yang saya kecewa apa dia? Kecewanya kerana bila saya bangkitkan dalam parlimen, Timbalan Menteri terkini tak tahu menahu adanya laporan tersebut. Jadi kita seolah-olah berhadapan dengan yang batas harga barang tapi tidak mempunyai senja ataupun kepakaran dan kesediaan untuk menangani. Sudah tentu bila saya turun ke bawah, yang diminta untuk jangka masa pendek adalah subsidi. Yes. Tapi untuk jangka masa pertengahan dan lanjutan, kerajaan perlu melihat why is the increase taking place? Apa yang dibuat terhadap mereka yang menyalahgunakan AP? Apa yang dibuat terhadap harga barangan dedak yang kita buat lebih kurang 95% kali ini, dan negara pada kita kurangkan import tersebut untuk security dalaman atau domestik. Jadi untuk jangka masa pertengahan, what are you going to do? Dan ini berbalik kepada isu terakhir yang saya sebut, iaitu kita tahu nak tak nak antara bahan penggantinya adalah sirong sawit. Adakah kita akan terus membiarkan untuk penyediaan isi rong sawit pun ada kartel juga yang kawal? Jadi dalam hal ini ada 3 jangka masa panjang, pendek dan pertengahan yang harus kita kenal pasti untuk memastikan kehidupan rakyat dan bebanan ini kita dapat perbaiki, lindungi dengan langkah-langkah yang dilihat dapat menjadi langkah kalis masa depan.
Thank you, YB Nurul. Just a very gentle reminder to everyone. So if you have any question regarding this topic, please post it at the comment section and we'll forward it to the speakers during the Q&A session. So let us to listen to what the consumer thinks. So Madam Fatima, can you share with us your findings and your analysis regarding the price side of vegetables and other essential goods? And let's brief us about from the perspective of consumers. You need to unmute yourself, madam. Yeah.
Thank you, Wong. Salam sejahtera. The problem with the price increase, this is not new. This is a perennial problem that CAS has been highlighting for decades. See, the problem with policy is that we place extreme emphasis on manufacturing and construction industry. While there has always been an attempt to emphasize the developing of a production of food, sustainable food production, there has not been enough effort and emphasis put on this area. And so it has always been in the backseat, and you always end up with a knee-jerk reaction or an ad hoc reaction to this. We need a structured, holistic policy on food production in the country. I mean, we even import things like potatoes and onions. I mean, in any country, self-sustenance is an important measure. So when you don't have emphasis on production of agriculture, like they have done in Thailand, we end up with this situation. No doubt the present situation is a reflection of the problem, is linked to the COVID pandemic, as well as the increase in prices globally. But we have to go to the drawing board and come up with a concrete plan of how we are going to address our agricultural policy and the distribution. That is the other problem we have, I think YB Nurul Izzah mentioned about the cartel. This is one of the findings of CAP, that the whole distribution system is controlled by cartels. So there's no proper match between the producers and the consumer. There has to be proper policies where people have to be encouraged at district levels, community levels, state levels, and at nationally on production of food. If we are going to only pay heed to manufacturing and construction sector and to cash crops, this is the problem we are always going to face. We are always going to be insecure about our food supply. And in any country, whatever it is, you cannot think of comparative advantage in thinking that we're going to import food. Food is a basic necessity, and there has to be policies in place for local production and distribution of food. And we cannot keep going time and time again. The price of food is going up, the price of vegetables are going up. There has to be firm and committed policy by the government and the people about this. That's all I have to say.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Madam Fatima. And actually, in today's webinar, we are also glad to invite a representative from the farmer group to join with us in this discussion. So, Mr. Chai, the farmers were accused of making profits, or that the cartels are making profits throughout the month. So, what is your response to this allegation? Can you tell us more from your perspective? Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wong, and Ali YB, Puan Fatima. recently price hike on vegetables in our country had also become a hot topic. Okay. Well, not only vegetables, other essentials such as chicken, meats, eggs, cooking oils, and these prices are also rising. And all this due to the bad weather. Can you please show the first slide? Thank you. There we can see bad weather, shortage of labor, destruction of supply chain, cost of input, carriages increase. Well, also we know that crude oil had increased from USD 50 ringgit per barrel, 50 USD to almost 80 USD per barrel. So increased almost by 60% within this year. So beside that, chemical fertilizer, seeds, pesticide, pesticides are mainly imported from Western countries. And due to currency rate and also the transportation have pushed up the prices. So here, when we refer to the first slide here, we can see bad weather, reduced production because we are short of labor, expensive inputs. Yes, this has been discussed in the either cabinet or even in parliament. Ada pembahasan tentang harga kenaikan, harga untuk baja, untuk racun perosak, termasuklah weedicide ataupun racun rumpai. Can we go to the second slide, please? Yeah. So the social media had reported that the prices of vegetable, especially during the mid of November, there were reports regarding some of the vegetables had increased to even 100 or 200%. When we refer to the harga Wira Pulau Pinang, okay, we look at kopi bunga 100% from 7 ringgit to 16. Sawi pendek, this is grown locally, 200%. Broccoli, sawi, all this. But I would like to explain here that most of these imported vegetables, for instance, kopi bunga, increased by 100%. Broccoli, 150%. These are mainly imported ones from China. And the other are local grown vegetable. Chilies, kupis, all these increase at least 30, 40, even up to 88% for kacang buncis and sawi pendek. Sawi pendek, I think, is this so-called choy sama, sawi pendek. Yeah. And such increment, when we compare to what KPDN had done the survey and also siasatan, nampak dia harga burrata pada masa yang sama, kopi bunga hanya kenaikan meningkat 23%. So some of them are within 10% to the highest is about 27.5% kacang buncis. So there is a big differences. You see, for instance, kopi bunga dropped to 12 ringgit 83. There is a harga runcit. Yeah, I suppose to be harga runcit. So these the differences lah that we can show you.
Yeah, Mr. Chai, you have another 1 minute to conclude for this first round of session.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, when we look at SSR, then we will know the third, first, second, third, fourth one. So we need to import about 70% of our vegetables. There's about 2 million metric ton, and it costs us about 5.4 billion ringgit So every year we got to spend so much on our food importation. Second last is we make a comparison of this harga, kenaikan harga untuk inputs kita lah, fertilizer, racun perosak, and even our gaji. Okay. The next one, please. Yeah, after this, another slide, please. Yeah. So we can see November 2021 compared to the year 2020, some of the prices, farm price, increased by 30-40%. But this year, red chili, the price is lower, and even tomato and capsicum are lower than last year. Finally, I must say, according to a report given by FAO, that harga agro makanan sudah naik 31.3%, 31.3% for this year. So this increment also resulted to our so-called inflation in the country. Thank you, Mr. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chai. So from the first discussion, we learned about like how the recent price hike have impacted the, like what Charles mentioned about, is how it impacted the poor family and also the average person, and also YB Nuriza and also Madam Fatima has also told us regarding the issue of cartel that have a very strong influence in controlling the price in Malaysia. So, and actually, it's quite awful to see our Ministry of Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs behave unresponsive manner despite the rakyat already struggling to survive in this post-COVID-19 pandemic, right? So, YB Charles, as a lawmaker, how do you foresee the issue is going to end up with? And apa ke cadangan-cadangan kamu kepada kerajaan dalam jangka masa pendek dan juga jangka masa panjang untuk membuat perubahan tentang dasar-dasar yang sedia ada?
Terima kasih untuk soalan itu. Saya fikir soalan itu boleh dipecahkan kepada dua bahagian. Satu berkait dengan short term dan juga satu long term. Saya fikir pada masa ini saya akan tujukan kepada short term sebab walaupun kita mesti ada satu rancangan panjang ataupun long term view, iaitu isu berkait dengan food sovereignty ataupun food security di Malaysia, di mana we are self-sufficient, food sufficient. Tapi that was going to take a long time. Sebab ini adalah satu beberapa rancangan yang mesti dibuat dan ini akan mengambil masa untuk mendapat apa-apa hasil. Tapi yang penting sekarang ialah keluarga kita, keluarga Malaysia dikatakan oleh Perdana Menteri sekarang dalam hunger. Sekarang dalam keadaan di mana tidak ada makanan yang cukup untuk keluarga dan juga untuk anak-anak mereka. So how do we solve this problem in the short term? Pada pandangan saya, kita boleh buat beberapa rancangan. Satu ialah untuk regulate prices, untuk kawal selia harga. Sehingga kawal selia harga ini adalah penting dan juga ini boleh mengkurangkan pengaruh kartel-kartel yang dikatakan tadi oleh YB Nurul dan juga oleh Puan Fatimah. Dan sebab harga, kalau kita katakan bahawa kartel mempunyai satu pengaruh yang besar dalam menentukan harga sayur-sayuran, maka dengan kawal selia harga ataupun menetapkan harga yang ceiling, maka ini dapat memberi kebaikan kepada pengguna-pengguna biasa dan juga pekerja-pekerja yang hanya mendapat gaji sebanyak 1,500 ataupun 2,000 ringgit. Isu yang kedua ialah apa saya panggil beli secara pukal ataupun bulk buying, beli secara pukal. Satu example saya boleh berikan ialah pada Ahad ini pejabat saya telah menggunakan dana sebanyak 15,000 ringgit, 15,000 ringgit, tetapi kita dapat memberi 5 jenis sayur-sayuran kepada lebih kurang 1,200 hingga 1,300 penerima. So apakah pembelajaran di sini? The lesson ataupun the message here is, kalau kerajaan menerusi farmer dapat membeli secara pukal, secara in a very big level, maka harga pun boleh dikurangkan dan kerajaan boleh memberi subsidi kepada sayur-sayuran itu untuk diberikan ataupun menyalurkan menerusi sistem pasar kerajaan yang sedia ada. So we can use the farmers supply chain untuk menyebarkan kepada seluruh negara, khususnya di kawasan-kawasan di mana kita tahu ada banyak penghuni-penghuni di B40 dan juga B60. So bulk buying itu cara beli secara pukal. So kerajaan akan menggunakan dana kerajaan untuk menerusi farma dan juga pasar farma dan sistem farma yang sedia ada ataupun sistem Kementerian Pertanian yang sedia ada untuk memberikan sayur-sayuran dengan harga yang kurang. Dan juga saya fikir dalam midterm kita boleh menggunakan apa yang saya panggil stockpile concept. Stockpile merupakan satu cara di mana kerajaan mula membeli daripada negara ataupun daripada luar negara dan simpan stockpile dalam mana-mana tempat supaya bila harga naik, barang-barang ini boleh dikeluarkan untuk mengkurangkan harga pasaran. Ini saya fikir adalah satu konsep yang harus diteliti oleh pihak kerajaan sebab saya dapati di negara-negara lain seperti di Eropah dan juga di China dan juga di Korea dan sebagainya, mereka mengamalkan sistem stockpile di mana mereka beli semasa harga itu kurang ataupun semasa harga itu belum naik lagi, belum tinggi lagi. Dan selepas mereka simpan dan bila mereka dapat keluarkan, mereka keluarkan. Saya faham bahawa kita tak boleh membuat stockpile untuk semua barang-barang. Tidak. Sayur-sayuran akan jadi tak boleh pakai lagi. Tetapi untuk beras dan sebagainya, maka stockpile itu boleh diguna pakai dan lain-lain barang makanan boleh diguna pakai. So ini saya tengok 3 pandangan atau rancangan saya boleh lontarkan pada masa sekarang.
Terima kasih YB Charles Santiago. Dan saya ingin tujukan soalan kepada YB Nuriza. Jadi apakah ada pada pendapat kamu, bagaimanakah kerajaan boleh mengawal harga untuk barang dan makanan asas dan apakah reformasi dalam dasar boleh dilaksanakan dari segi perlindungan sosial dan dasar dana untuk membetulkan satu sistem jaminan makanan yang komprehensif di Malaysia seperti apa yang ditujukan oleh YB Charles Santiago.
Terima kasih Saudara Wong, YB Charles seorang pakar ekonomi. Jadi sudah tentu antara cadangan yang boleh lontarkan dari segi stockpiling itu penting bagi menjamin stok makanan di kala kita menghadapi cabaran seperti pandemik. Kita masih ingat lagi ada kita lalui perjalanan dan pentadbiran beberapa kerajaan dan kalau tak silap saya semasa pemerintahan Tun Muhammad Badawi, ketika itu kita banyak bercakap tentang usaha membangunkan sektor pertanian supaya Malaysia dapat menjamin security makanan. Maksudnya kita patut kurangkan kebergantungan kepada ekspor. Kita harus memastikan kita laburkan dalam sektor pertanian dan pelaburan ini bukan berbentuk pelaburan dari segi kartel. Maksudnya monopoli yang mengakibatkan baja yang diberi kepada petani, racun yang diberi kepada petani itu versi yang murah yang tidak berkualiti. Jadi dia ada lingkaran. Kalau kita benar-benar mahu melihat secara serius isu security makanan, maka dari segi research, R&D, kita beri kualiti yang terbaik yang dapat menyalurkan dan menghasilkan hasil tanaman yang jauh lebih berkualiti daripada sebelumnya. Itu pertama yang penting. Jadi saya berbalik dan saya baru saja kongsi dengan YB Charles. Saya berbalik kepada laporan The Market Review on Food Sector in Malaysia under the Competition Act 2010. Kenapa saya sebut tentang kajian ini? Kerana kajian ini dah menyimpulkan masalah yang kita hadapi. Maksudnya dah sudah terang lagi bersuluh ya. Masalah bagaimana kita terlalu terikat. Bagaimana nak percaya kepada mereka yang akan menyalurkan bahan dedak, mereka yang ada kuasa mengimport semua bahan-bahan ini kalau mereka menyalahgunakan kuasa tersebut, dan ini disimpulkan dalam laporan tersebut. Kalau saya mintalah semua orang yang menonton pada malam ini tolong baca laporan tersebut, kerana kita boleh bagi bantuan sama ada stockpiling, kita boleh bagi subsidi, dan ini juga diumum oleh kerajaan. Tapi itu sekadar stopgap measures, iaitu penyelesaian jangka masa pendek. Bila nak bergerak ke depan, kita nak pastikan okey, petani kita bukan sahaja diiktiraf kalau mereka menjadi petani sepenuh masa. Kerana semua yang tergolong dalam senarai penerima bantuan atau subsidi, syaratnya kadang-kadang sedikit ketat ya, dan kita tengok kalau mereka yang menjadi petani separuh masa atau sebagainya, dia kalau nak rancakkan lagi sektor pertanian, kena tambah dan lebar luaskan segmen satu. Keduanya adalah bagaimana nak pastikan yang kartel tak bertanggungjawab diambil tindakan. Adakah mereka yang berkuasa dan punyai hubungan yang rapat dengan kementerian atau pihak berkuasa. Semua ini kita kena selesaikan. Kerana bila ada kredibiliti, maka mudah nak salurkan bantuan, petani nak cari dan juga mereka yang menjual, pemborong. You close the gap. Jadi bila jadi petani, kita nampak hasil sangat tinggi keuntungannya. Jadi ada minat yang ikhlas, dan pada masa yang sama kita juga bergerak di atas teknologi value chain supaya kita tak bergantung lagi kepada import bahan dedak dan bahan-bahan keperluan dari negara luar. Dan sudah tentu ini bukan yang dapat dilakukan serta-merta. Saya tak kata begitu, tapi pada saya sayang dah ada laporan 2019 tapi laporan tersebut kita tak ambil tindakan. Di manakah iltizam politik? Jadi saya pun saya serah kepada Timbalan Menteri laporan tersebut. Kerana pada saya dah ada laporan, tak kisah kerajaan mana pun. Sekarang ni kita kena lakukan sesuatu, kita kena ada iltizam politik untuk menyelamatkan masa depan dan kehidupan rakyat. Kerana kalau sebagaimana YB Charles sebut ya, di kawasan beliau, di kawasan saya, di semua mata-kata kat Malaysia ni dah, orang kurangkan makanan bernutrisi. Mereka tak nak beli sayur, mereka tak nak beli ikan kembung. Mereka cuba cari barang-barang makanan yang paling murah. Ayam pun sekarang jadi orang mewah, orang kaya je boleh beli ya. Bagaimana dengan anak-anak mereka? Kerana kita tahu daripada kajian kemiskinan pelbagai dimensi yang saya buat di Pematang Pauh, yang paling terkesan keluarga B40, termasuklah M40 yang ramai terjerumus dalam golongan B40 ni adalah anak-anak. Anak-anak adalah rancangan Malaysia, rancangan sarapan pagi tidak dapat mereka nikmati seperti dulu ya, dikecilkan pada segmen tertentu. Ini kan harga barangan bertinggi. Jadi tumbesaran anak-anak 3 tahun akan mendatang, bagaimanakah perkembangan minda mereka? Tumbesaran mereka, kebolehan mereka untuk menyerap maklumat, ini akan beri kesan negatif kepada Malaysia's human capital. Jadi pada saya bab ini tak boleh kompromi. Kita nak penyelesaian tuntas untuk mereka laksana supaya mereka kena tunjukkan denda, ambil tindakan punitif kepada kartel-kartel. Itulah yang memperlihatkan keseriusan daripada kementerian di samping pemberian subsidi. You see, money you can give away, but if you cannot catch those who are causing distress and skewing the market untuk keuntungan diri sendiri, maka macam Encik saya sebut mereka yang memang betul-benar menjadi pengusaha, minat, bergiat. Saya dengar sekarang banyak syarikat, ini poin terakhir, minta maaf Wong, syarikat yang memang pakar dalam isi rong sawit, tiba-tiba kena fight dengan dah masuk bab, dah kena dapat persetujuan untuk menghasilkan isi rong sawit kan, makanan dedak dalaman negara, dah punya susah dan sampai ke tahap ni, tiba-tiba kena pula bersaing dengan kartel lain yang wujud. Mereka lah yang ada kuasa ya untuk menghasilkan dan mengeluarkan bahan-bahan dedak ini. So our true blue talented producers, dia akan rasa kecewa lah. We have to make the ecosystem mudah. Permudahkan supaya sektor pertanian ini menjamin dan juga penternakan menjamin security makanan buat seluruh rakyat Malaysia dan rakyat di Malaysia, insyaAllah.
Terima kasih YB Nuriza. Sekarang saya nak tanya kepada Madam Fatimah. So can you share with us more on how the consumer can do and also to defend their rights when they find out unreasonable price hike in their community? And also, how do you think the government should respond to this particular issue? Madam Fatimah, you need to unmute yourself, yeah?
I'd like to take up something that Mr. Chai mentioned just now about the increase in price of kacang panjang. See, this is a crop, a vegetable that can be very easily grown at the community level, even in your own backyard. So this is something that that every district, every state should be emphasizing for people to grow their own vegetables and food. It is not the main source of food, vegetables, but it can supplement. Like for instance, in the case of where, like Mr. Santiago was talking about the B40s who can't afford to buy. If you have in the home areas, in the lands around the households, vacant lands, the local government should encourage people to use it to farm. And that can be a source of food and nutrition for the people, for the immediate measure for them to sustain themselves. Urban farming and community farming is very important, especially with the pandemic. You can see it's easy to grow a lot of things. Like in Cap, we have an urban farm there, and we grow so many things. So at the community level, that each state should look into each area where households can grow their own food. And these organizing the farmers, we can come up with the idea of and concept of having farmers cooperatives who can join together to form cooperatives in order for them to market their produce and to get in touch with the market and the consumer, and in a way to try and break the cartels and form distribution centers, especially with the technologies that we have. This is a doable thing and possible. Like recently I read that in Johor, they are forming such a system. So, I mean, while we look at the bigger picture of, having agricultural policies, people should also be empowered to and given the facilities to grow their own food in their own neighborhood. Not only of vegetables, but livestock, where it's possible. This is one of the measures that, every state government should look into. I think the others have covered the other areas, and this is one aspect of the food production that we should look into. Back to you, Wong.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Fatima. And I would like to pose the question to Mr. Chai. So what kind of assistance you think the government should provide to the farmers, and what kind of mentality and approach needed to uplift the agriculture industry as a whole?
Well, to overcome so-called the food crisis that we are having now, I think government should, in short term, should approve some subsidy or incentive for the growers to reduce our cost of inputs. There's one way. And also this has been discussed in the parliament, the government or MAFI agree to allot this budget for farmers, but I don't know how far that or how much the growers can get. Secondly, I think for long term, we are still short of farming land. Each negeri kerajaan, so they will have to change their policy to alienate more land for this vegetables industry. Meanwhile, also we have found that some vegetables, especially imported one, like halia, ginger, we need to import almost more than 80%. But we can see that in Bentong district of Pahang, district of Bentong, they can grow good variety and also premium quality halia, also getting popular in Singapore or even in Hong Kong. So some other crops, vegetables, imported one, mainly like chili, we need to import 70%, cabbage, round cabbage, 60%, cauliflower, broccoli, carrot, all these almost 100%. So all this can be grown in our country, either in the lowland for tropical or subtropical variety, or even in highlands. There's temperate types of vegetables. So we urge various state government can really look into this issue. Secondly, just I had mentioned, Fatima had mentioned, long beans prices is increased by 88%. It's easy to grow. Really, in small scale or under the so-called urban farming, yeah, it's easy to control pests and disease. But if you are growing in such a commercial or large scale, I think you got a lot of work to do, because now we are facing shortage of labor, and that's why production of long bean is less, because we don't have enough workers to look after, especially the post-harvest handling. To collect the beans, you need a lot of workmanship. So we also talk about the pricing mechanism. Well, for instance, vegetables from Cayman Islands, we sent out to mainly the wholesale market, Kuala Lumpur. So prices are determined by wholesalers based on the consignment basis. So it seems that there are more than 300 pemborong wholesalers in Pasar Borong, Kuala Lumpur. And I think it's impossible for them to berpakat bersatu untuk mengawal harga lah sayur-sayuran, because vegetables from Cayman Islands we send down either to certain collector or even transport agent to the wholesalers, and they will based on the latest pricing, and they will determine later, but not, I don't think they will control the price as what we mentioned. They are cartel there, because our products are highly perishable and prices are paid to us according to the grading. Grade A have grade A price mechanism, grade B, or even we look at the packaging. Some are good packaging, good appearance, so they will offer a better price. Meanwhile, I think that's all what I want to explain, but we need support from government, because all the while, kadang-kala lah, petani sendiri, petani khasnya, petani berkebun sayur lah, selalu membuat aduan kerana mereka anggap golongan ini macam dipinggirkan. Ada subsidi ke, bantuan ke, insentif pun jarang petani boleh dapat. That's why we hope at this time, especially during the pandemic, why the price price hike is so high? Simply because it's not easy and cheap to import. That is why prices of vegetables, imported one, is rising tremendously. Jadi kami haraplah boleh dapat bantuan daripada kerajaan and help the industry, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chai. So I shall proceed to the Q&A session. So because of the time constraint, we want to end it within 1 hour and not more than that. So we will read out the questions posted by the audience at once, and I will request each speaker to respond to those questions, and also adding up your conclude remark. And you can conclude, give a conclusion remark. Yeah. So. Helen, can you share the question that you have shared with us just now? So regarding the value, so what is the value that we have for our agriculture product, and what value does the whole supply chain has brought to the market and consumers, both agriculture inputs and upstream and downstream supply chain? So I think this maybe Mr. Chai can answer it because you are the expert, right? And also, any other question? So the other question is regarding they asked government to put a ceiling price on the vegetables, but not the floor price. So during the raining seasons and when the farmer can make money from the government controls, but when the price are bad, the farmers are left for what it is. So can something be done to that to be fairer to the farmers? What can be done to help these farmers, especially they are facing uncertain weather and also the planting conditions? Any other question? Yeah. I also have a question to all the speakers. Maybe you can conclude it during your conclusion remark. So it's regarding on because when we talk about the food security, we must also relate it to the poverty that happened in our country, right? So how our country can move forward as a whole and to address this poverty issue, to make sure people at least can put food on the table, even no matter during the pandemic or at any time. So maybe you can give some suggestion in order to address the poverty issue in your conclusion remark. So we will go to Madam Fatima first. Based on the question that be posted by the audience, you can answer to that, and also what you can give your conclusion on today's topic. Need to unmute. Let me unmute your video. Okay.
The first question was about the supply chain. Now, the thing is, like Mr. Chai was saying, the distribution center is in Kuala Lumpur. Why can't we have a distribution center throughout the country? So where the producer produces in one place, we have a system, a rangkaian, that goes throughout the country. Why is it concentrated in one place? This is a measure that has to be taken. We looked into. And the other thing I was talking about the cooperatives. You have to form and get the farmers together. And there's another important issue that Mr. Chai also mentioned. May not be in to do with supply chain, about labor. We have to have a very clear understanding about what we are going to do about labor. Do we need foreign labor for this? Then what are the policies we are going to have? We cannot just allow, illegal workers to come in and then, you go and raid them and then you deport them or detain them. We have to have a very clear policy on what is the labor requirement for the country, because if you don't have enough labor to work on your farms, you're going to have disruptions in your supplies. And the final question you were asking about poverty. This is institutional and systematic problem which we have to address. Firstly, we have to increase the skills of our workers. We need skilled people in the country. We need a disciplined workforce. We need adequate wages for people to live, and measures to narrow the income disparity and the wealth disparity in this country. If we don't address this question and these issues, we're always going to have this gap and poverty with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Fatima. And Mr. Chai, do you have any suggestion regarding the question that have been posted earlier?
Yeah, I think I would say 90% of our inputs, there's materials and also even machinery are imported. That's why our inputs, cost of inputs, increased recently. Talking about supply chain, just now Puan Fatima said, KL, Kuala Lumpur wholesale market is a major wholesale market in the country. We do supply about less than 20% of our greens to Ipoh. And then from other neighboring towns, for instance, Malacca, they will come to Kuala Lumpur to get the supply, and even as far as Kuantan. So we don't sell directly to Kuantan. It seems that we have some problem with the logistic, because wholesale market in Kuala Lumpur is so well established. And talking about workers' problem, yes, since most of our local are not interested to work in the farm, as considered as 3D in nature, so we got to depends a lot on these foreign workers. So for the past 2 and 3 years, government have frozen the recruitment of new workers, either from all these countries like Nepal, India, Bangladesh. So we have a very serious shortage of workers, even less than close to 30% of shortage. So at this time, when bad weather plus shortage of worker, we can see the impact that production have been dropped tremendously. I will say we can supply, the whole country supply almost 1 million tons of vegetables yearly. And this time, production have less, or productivity have less by almost 40 to 50%. That's why we can see the impact. The prices will I don't think it will be, somebody say maybe next year or coming new year, the price will be back to normal or stable. But now, even the wholesaler told us that now a severe shortage of cucumber, tomato in the market. So cucumber, KPTN has set a maximum price of 350 harga borong and 450 harga runcit. But at this moment, I think the price will be above 6 to 7 ringgit already, because so terlampau kurang lah. Tomato, just now I mentioned in my paper there, mid of November, tomato harga di peringkat ladang dekat RM2.20. Okay, sekarang dah melonjak sampai RM4 plus, melebihi ataupun berkali ganda because of the bad weather and also very cold temperature here. So the fruits is getting very slow ripening. Tak dapat petik macam dululah 3 kali 1 minggu. Sekarang 2 kali seminggu pun payah. So there is a great shortage of tomato in the market. And we talk about KPDN already imposed maximum price for 6 types of vegetables, the common type, sawi, cabbage, tomato, chili, long beans, and also, I forgot, cabbage. So farmers are urging government also, you want to set maximum price for these items, please also incur so-called floor price. Harga minima. You know, beginning of this year, prices of chili only fetch 2 ringgit to 3 ringgit per kg for quite a long time, from January until almost June. So farmers, especially those who participated in this TKPM project in Kelantan, in Selangor, these farmers are using or practice so-called fertigation, drip fertigation, fertigasi. So mereka tapak hanya 2-3 ringgit untuk cili ya, dan banyak rugi. And I just thought we need to import 70% of chili, and why local chili only selling at 2 or 3 ringgit. That's why farmers say it's better for the either MAFI or KPDN, whoever government agency lah, to set a minimum price of 4 price for them so that they can survive. Because during the monsoon period like now, these farmers are not growing any chili in Kelantan side. They know it's going to face rugi lah. Jadi untuk mengawal bekalan yang stable dan juga harga yang berpatutan lah. Jadi saya pun buat perayaan di sinilah. Harga lantai ataupun floor price should be implemented lah. Ini saja yang saya dapat memberi jawapan. Thank you.
Okey, terima kasih Encik Chai. Jadi saya ingin melontarkan soalan kepada YB Nurul Izzah. Jadi bolehkah YB kongsikan sedikit mengenai hasil-hasil laporan yang disebutkan oleh YB tadi, Multidimensional Poverty Index Report, yang dijalankan di kawasan Pematang Pau, dan apakah dasar-dasar yang diperlukan untuk menyelesaikan isu kemiskinan yang menjadi semakin serius pada waktu COVID-19, pandemik ini. Ya, silakan.
Terima kasih Saudara Wong. Ya, Alhamdulillah dengan kerjasama Profesor Fatimah Kari daripada Universiti Melaya sebelumnya, beliau sudah bersara, tapi saya pujuk untuk bantu mengkaji 9 dimensi kemiskinan yang dialami oleh keluarga B40 ya, di Permatang Pauh, dan antara 9 dimensi, 3 melibatkan dimensi yang ada kaitan dengan COVID. Contoh keselesaan semua dalam isi rumah bila mereka terpaksa berhadapan dengan perintah pergerakan yang terkurung, MCO. Yang kedua, akses kepada pendidikan atas talian untuk anak-anak dalam rumah B40. Dan ketiga, kadar kesusahan bila mereka hilang kerja dan hilang ruang perniagaan. Dan kesimpulannya apa? Kerana ada kaitan dengan harga barangan makanan yang naik, sayur-sayuran. Bila anak-anak dalam keluarga MP40 menghadapi cabaran, kehilangan keuntungan ataupun rezeki, mereka akan mengalami juga kekurangan makanan yang lebih bernutrisi berbanding sebelumnya. Jadi disimpulkan oleh Prof Fatimah Kari dengan Farah, antara pembantu penyelidik, it's called extreme food poverty. Itu terma dia, extreme food poverty, kerana dalam indeks kemiskinan pelbagai dimensi satu isi rumah, yang paling miskin adalah anak-anak. Tengoklah di Chile ke, di negara-negara yang menggunakan MPI ini, yang paling terkesan adalah anak-anak. Jadi bila bercakap tentang makanan, kerana itu sama ada apa yang dibuat oleh YB Charles atau YB lain, semua sesi-sesi yang diajar menerusi CAP ya, untuk mengajar pentingnya makan sayur, pentingnya kita kawal kalori. Keluarga miskin sudah tentu akan mengurangkan makanan bernutrisi bila mereka hadapi masalah kewangan. Jadi pada saya, kita desak kerajaan untuk memperkenalkan, saya sebut universal ataupun skim kesihatan sejagat sebagaimana dianjurkan oleh Khazanah Research Institute, supaya anak-anak ni sama ada keluarga B40, M40 ataupun T20, mereka diberikan pelaburan awal makanan yang berzat dengan kuantum dana yang tertentu. Jadi bila kita invest in children awal kan, kita labur, bila mereka membesar, mereka insya-Allah akan lebih berjaya dan pembesarannya lebih berkualiti. Jadi itu satu. Keduanya memang ada inisiatif yang ditawarkan oleh kerajaan negeri dan pusat untuk menggalakkan petani komuniti. Ya, disebut like community farmers. Yang kita minta adalah kalau boleh keluarga B40 ramai mendaftar. Tapi pada masa yang sama, sebagaimana Puan Fatimah sebut, tak cukup dengan menghasilkan tanaman. Kena ada orang beli. Kalau dikelilingi masyarakat tu semua keluarga B40, jadi kuasa mereka boleh beli kan, dia rendah. Jadi back to square one, right? Because if you pay cheaply, siapa nak beli, siapa nak bertanam? Siapa nak jadi petani? Because it doesn't make any money. So di sinilah peluangnya untuk kerajaan bagi menyalurkan supaya the market kepada pasaran yang lebih tinggi dapat membeli, dapat memberikan sedikit insentif kepada Encik Chai dan semua ya yang mengusahakan dalam bab ini. So we have to think about the incentives dan kerana dalam grading laporan tersebut, iaitu laporan MICC itu disebut tentang the different grading for vegetables. So ada organic, ada yang mungkin cheaper, whatever. The point is grading ini sudah tentu the top grade. Contoh ada sebuah syarikat bernama Cultivate. Dia telah menghasilkan sayuran kale dalam apa dipanggil rumah hijaunya. But of course nak tak nak mereka memerlukan juga insentif pelaburan supaya mereka boleh bantu mengeksport kale buatan di Malaysia itu. Ya, sayuran kale ni antara yang paling mahal lah. Kalau orang nak organik kan, dia buy kale. But the issue is you need to have the buying power. So that segment mereka dapat dibantu mengikut cara lain. Jadi ini merupakan sesuatu sophistication, dokongan daripada kerajaan yang tak boleh bagi insentif pukul rata. Contoh Encik Chai juga sebut pekerja asing. Ya, bukan semua nak kerja di kawasan difficult, dirty and dangerous. This is a reality. Jadi kita kena sesuaikan. Kalau betul kita nak pastikan pekerja dalam negara nak bersama, so kita kena cari solution yang saling bergandingan supaya petani dan pengeluar dan penghasil tidak merasa terlalu tertekan. Sementara kita meraihkanlah pekerja tempatan untuk bersama dalam satu gerakan revolusi sektor pertanian. So for me, makanan ini adalah segala-galanya. Kita nak pastikan anak-anak kita, anak-anak, semua rakyat dan semua orang di Malaysia adalah makanan yang berkhasiat. Mereka dapat akses kepada pendidikan kerana mereka menjadi tenaga kita di masa hadapan. Justru pada saya berharaplah desakan kita kepada kerajaan kerana sarapan pagi sekarang ini yang diperkenalkan di sekolah juga dipotong. Saya rasa YB Simpang Renggam ada sebut daripada RM2.50 seorang patutnya naik RM4 pasal harga makanan dah lebih mahal. Jadi everything is very linked to one another. Bayangkan kalau di sekolah-sekolah boleh membuat pembelian daripada petani tempatan. Again, so this positive cycle, di mana ada market yang sentiasa disediakan bagi menampung keperluan satu sama lain, itu akan membantu. Dan kita tak bolehlah rasa hanya boleh ukur dalam seminggu dua. Sebagaimana saya sebut, it requires long-term thinking. YB Charles mungkin lebih tahu, dia pernah sekelas dengan Mariana Mazzucato. Saya hanya baca buku Mariana Mazzucato je. Saya tak pernah jumpa. Tapi apakah misi kita lepas pandemik? Kalau misi kita nak menjadikan Malaysia ini sebuah negara yang lebih bernutrisi, negara yang bergantung kepada food security, maka tak boleh lupa kesusahan yang kita alami hari ini. Kita kena melabur dalam sektor pertanian, bergerak seiringan dengan Encik Chai, ya, dengan seluruh mereka yang bernaung di bawah beliau, dan melihat hasilnya dari tahun ke tahun. Ya, kalau tukar Perdana Menteri sekali lagi pun, please stick to this. Saya rasa letih bila kita duk tukar dasar kan mengikut cita rasa menteri. Pada saya, menteri boleh ganti, tapi dasar yang baik dan positif itu kita kena kekalkan. Dia kena melangkaui dan survive the ministers. Kerana itu saya pergi balik sama ada isu siasatan awal dan ini Encik Chai nak sebut, bukan kita nak kata semua bergerak sebagai kartel, tapi memang ada elemen-elemen tersebut, dan itu yang kita nak kurangkan supaya the genuine traders, the genuine farmers benar-benar mendapat peluang yang saksama dan hasil yang lebih lumayan. So for me, saya akan serahkan juga sesalinan laporan MPI, Indeks Kemiskinan Pelbagai Dimensi, kerana pada saya kemiskinan, jangan ingat hari ni kita T20 kita selesa. Kemiskinan bersifat anjal. Hari ni jadi M40, esok jadi B40. It's normal. In our life cycle, that is life, right? One day you're up, the next day you can be down. Jadi kita kena mengamalkan sifat empathy dalam kita melaksanakan dasar dan membantu mengupayakan rakyat, insyaAllah.
Okay, terima kasih YB Nurul. Jadi, I would like to ask YB Charles regarding just now there are two speakers who raised the shortage of foreign labor issue, right? So can you please comment on this, and also how are you going to strike a balance between the recruitment of foreign labor and also the current unemployment in Malaysia, because people always connect this together. Then also, would like to ask, because we also raised about the poverty issue, like what YB Nurul have mentioned just now. How can the state take the approach, comprehensive and also holistic approach to address the poverty issue that have long existing in Malaysia? So, please, YB.
Unmute, brother.
YB, you need to unmute yourself. You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Apa yang saya kata ialah tajuk yang diberikan kepada saya sebagai simpulan merupakan tajuk seminar untuk 2-3 hari. It's not easy. Tetapi untuk menjawab secara singkat, pertama saya fikir sekarang Kementerian Pertanian dan Industri Makanan dipanggil sebagai MAFI. Tadi selalu dikatakan oleh Encik Chai, Ministry of Agriculture and Food Industries. Sebenarnya pandangan itu mesti tukar sikit untuk menjadi Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security ataupun Food Sovereignty. Kalau kita ada food security dan sovereignty, kepentingan pengusaha-pengusaha, pengguna-pengguna dijaga sama-sama secara adil. When you have food industries, fokus dia untuk fokus for economic development ataupun business development, but not to bring about keadilan di antara pengusaha ataupun petani-petani dan juga pengguna. So there must be a fair balance, and therefore the understanding of the ministry also must change. Isu kedua ialah jangan kita halau petani-petani daripada tanah pertanian. Sekarang kita dapati satu desakan di Pahang dan baru-baru ni di Kedah, di Perak, di mana tanah pertanian diambil alih untuk pembangunan building dan sebagainya, bangunan-bangunan dan sebagainya. So ini merupakan satu reason why we are in this mess at this time, because banyak kawasan pertanian ditukar kepada ataupun tanah itu ditukar untuk for other purposes like housing dan sebagainya, bukan untuk pertanian. Dan kita jelas kita nampak di Pahang, di luar Kuantan dan sebagainya, dan baru-baru ni di Perak di mana sehingga lebih kurang 200,000 petani dihalau keluar daripada kawasan mereka. This is what you call land grab. This is a land grab that is being orchestrated by the state. So kerajaan tempatan mesti menolong dalam isu ini, bukan untuk menghangatkan keadaan. Isu ketiga yang sebenarnya jawapan kepada seorang yang tanya soalan berkait dengan nilai, the value of agriculture. Sebenarnya kita can't put a price on agriculture. Of course, we know the government spends 5 billion, the private sector mungkin belanja lebih kurang 3 billion, mungkin all this is possible. Tetapi food has got multi-dimensional impact seperti yang dikatakan oleh YB Nurul tadi. Pertama, it creates jobs. Number two, it creates business. Number three, it's a source of revenue for government. But yang penting sekali dalam rangkaian pertanian, what is important is it provides nutrition for people. It provides nutrition for people, and in nutrition is important. Zat itu adalah penting sebab ini ada berkait dengan kesihatan rakyat. Dan juga kalau anak-anak kita pergi ke sekolah tanpa makanan, maka participation atau penyertaan dalam kelas will not be the same as a child yang pergi dengan ambil sarapan dan sebagainya. Ini jelas telah diberitahu oleh Profesor Engku Aziz dalam PhD beliau pada 60-an. Beliau mengatakan satu sebab mengapa anak-anak Melayu tidak dapat do well in the university or in schools is because they do not eat appropriately. They do not consume sufficient food. So therefore, kita mesti memberikan makanan berzat. That is one of the functions of agriculture. Untuk berzat supaya bukan sahaja anak Melayu, anak India, anak Cina, anak orang asli, semua mesti makan. Kalau mereka tidak makan, penyertaan dan juga di sekolah-sekolah, dan juga mereka juga akan sakit in the long run. So this becomes a cost for society, a larger cost for society. I don't want to repeat what YB Nurul has already said, but saya takut pada masa kini, kita mungkin akan menengok wayang gambar ataupun ulangan wayang gambar yang berlaku pada masa COVID, di mana kebanyakan daripada B40 sekarang B60 mungkin akan makan dalam satu hari sekali saja satu sekali dalam sehari, iaitu nasi goreng dengan telur. This is going to be a fear. And therefore, this is going to impact on children, on families, and so on and so forth. So saya fikir isu yang berkait dengan value cannot be one step. It's a huge community. When you touch food, you touch everything. You touch a whole structure of things, and which something that we have to protect very, very urgently and importantly. But what is at the end of the day, it is about rights. Food is a human right. Food is a human right, and that right must be provided oleh pihak kerajaan. Hak itu mesti diberikan kepada rakyat oleh kerajaan. Itu merupakan tanggungjawab kerajaan. Tapi kita dapati bahawa pada masa sekarang, hak itu dipinggirkan. Dan you leave the people to the market. Bermaksud bahawa kerajaan olah-olah tidak mau campur dalam hal ini dan hantar rakyat kepada pasaran. You deal with the market. Tapi when you deal with the market, you have malnutrition, you have makanan yang tidak zat kepada orang ramai, and you contain, that means you limit the food intake of people. This is a disaster in the making, though, and a real human crisis that we have. With that, I will stop, and thank you very much, Shankar.
Okay, thank you, YB Charles. So from what we see, how the speakers dissect the topic, we all know there are a lot of factors that lead to the price hike today, and it can affect devastating on every level of the society. And the government needs to be more proactive and also visionary in terms of handling the like what mentioned by the speakers just now, the agriculture policy, the food security policy, and also to handling the inflation and the price hike of the goods. So also we must know there's another threat, which is the climate change. When the climate change becomes inevitable, and what kind of things we can be done. So I think more collective efforts need to be done in order to establish a more robust food security system in Malaysia. And from now, I think what we can do is just pressure the government to respond the price hike issue urgently, because no one should be left hungry. And thank you to all the speakers to spare out their times with us today despite having a busy schedule and giving such a valuable and also insightful opinions regarding the price hike topic. And thank you so much to all the audience for staying with us throughout the session, and see you and good night. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih
Thank you,
semua.
Nurul.
Thank
Maybe
you,
we can take a
Alvin.
very quick
Okay, thank
pictures.
you very much.
Yeah.
Good talking.
Mila, can we take a
Okay,
pictures?
let's hope
Yes.
for better future, insyaAllah.